All right, welcome to Politically Incorrect on this Monday. First off, we have Mr. Robert Klein. As he just mentioned, he created me. He is going to be performing at the Mohegan Sun Casino. I've been there in Connecticut, November 21st and through the 25th, and it's true, nobody made me want to be a comedian more than Robert Klein. Over here we have Shafiq Shaddiqui. Did I say that correctly? I hope so. You are the managing producer of Rahat Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, a rock group?
A Qawwali group.
A Qawwali group. Okay. And I'm not sure what that is, but you'll tell us. And a filmmaker behind the movie A Voice from Heaven. Dr. Movindri, did I say that correctly?
Right.
Reddy from Occidental College, assistant professor of diplomacy and world affairs, and an expert on terrorism. And of course, Billy Corgan, formerly of the Smashing Pumpkins. Their greatest hits, Rotten Apples, comes out November 20th. And you got a new band called Zwan. Good for you, starting over.
It's a Qawwali group.
Performing at the Roxy on November 21st. Give them all a hand. This being Veterans Day, I did want to do some things about that and give them their props, which I do, but it's going to have to wait a little bit because another plane fell out of the sky today. So we're going to have to talk about that a little. Now, I don't know if this was terrorism. Nobody does, and I'm not saying it was or it wasn't. However, it sure could have been, for the reason that we are still not screening luggage. And the airlines say that we will not be fully operational. I'm talking about matching passengers to bags as they do everywhere else in the world. And I'm talking about just looking into bags that go into the cargo hold of the plane. Airlines say not fully operational for that until 2017. Because, you know, planes into buildings, planes falling in neighborhoods. What really is the rush, folks? And all I could think of today was that line Bob Dole used as his slogan in 1996, which was, "Where is the outrage?" He kept saying about Clinton's penis or Travelgate or something ridiculous. Where is the outrage? Where are people not making the connection that after 2 months, our leadership is not doing the job? Why does this administration have a 90% approval rating when we are still not screening bags 2 months after the attack on September 11th? Would anyone care to answer that question?
Well,
I didn't think so. So,
you know, clearly every piece of baggage going into any part of the airplane should be screened, and we don't have that capacity yet. Many of the smaller airports don't. The major ones do. This may be today an example of some of the worst luck of all time, because I'm a great you know, believer in aircraft safety. It's much safer than driving in your car and all that. It may have been an accident. And look, we're praying that it is. We're praying that it is. You know what I mean?
But even if it is, it certainly could have been the other thing. That's my point. It doesn't really matter whether it was terrorism or not. It so easily could have been. A bomb can get on the plane extremely...
We're in denial. We're in denial. We don't want to accept that this is happening, and this is just another extension of it. Because most people said after the September 11th attacks that they were willing to deal with a greater sense of security. I think everybody wants to feel safe getting on a plane. But as the weeks have gone by, we've kind of gotten back into our normal thing. The networks all went back to their normal things, and the promos, and it's all, you know, football games and everything, and we just go back into denial. And if we could just stop and really address these problems specifically, if the government would make them a top priority, I think everybody would fully support them.
But I think what happened is in this case...
He doesn't feel this way, and he has pretty good reasons to tell you why.
I fly today morning 7:15, and if I don't fly 7:15, I wouldn't be here today, because after 8 o'clock, 8:15, the airports were shut down. Instead of pumping the money on here and there to the big corporations, to giving checks to IBM or to other fellows, Americans, Republicans, I think we should devote our attentions towards to this major concern in this world, especially America, the air safety. If we don't do that, we will not able to function. Our country will be paralyzed totally.
And it is.
And after today's happened, look, there's one way we are facing the terrorism. We are cursing to terrorism. We are going to bombing to the Afghanistan, 10,000 miles away from here, and we are successfully achieving the results. What about America, inside America, the homeland security? We have no clue up today. The most modern technology,
and that's
everything, computers.
Right. And you mentioned the checks that were cut. Yes, we apparently have $140 billion to give away in a tax give back to Fortune 500 companies. We have $8.3 billion to spend on the missile diaphragm. We've got an airline bailout for billions of dollars, but they asked Bush for more than the $40 billion he proposed initially to fight terrorism, and he said, if one more penny, I will veto it. This is after Thursday night when he went on TV and said civilization itself is at stake here. So for civilization, we have $40 billion, and that's a cap. Any more is a deal breaker. $40 billion for civilization and not a penny more. So again, are you following this? I know we have a lot of young people here because Billy's here. Are you following this?
I think a lot of it is
I mean,
I mean, a lot of it also is that it's business as usual. You know, it's definitely political business as usual. And so we haven't prioritized this idea that we do need security internally, and we do need certain things that cost a lot of money, requires a lot of perseverance and so on. And I just don't think the administration wants to do
It's like
this.
the government can't get off the idea that we have to keep being fed, you know, the comfort, like, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry.
Right.
We don't want don't worry. No. We want we're taking care of it. And it's going to be a difficult time, but let's get it right. That's what everybody wants.
But there's a very cynical thing happening that you kind of touched on, and that is that people like Dick Armey and Tom DeLay are doing an end around using the attack and all that's come since for some real backdoor stuff like these tax rebates to corporations. Where's the concern for the people laid off by the airline industry, 100,000 of them and more to come? Where's the concern for their loss of their medical plan, all the rest? Nothing for the workers, but the CEOs can keep their $100 million salaries, and we save their industry. I do feel badly about the aviation industry. We need to fly. It isn't just kindness, you know. But I was thinking, you know, this poor guy, he's like a cool guy, and of course they got his eye on him. They got these air marshals removing Mideastern-looking men. There was one dyslexic air marshal removed Midwestern-looking men, and it was so embarrassing. These guys from Indiana going, hey, what's going on here? We're just going to Wisconsin. I never thought it was just awful. I didn't think I'd ever get a laugh from this guy.
Yes.
I think the direction of the government is really totally at this moment towards those who are the really rich, and the government think those rich get really screwed up because of this terrorist attack. Government is not focusing on those, the masses, the millions of people, workers working on the airports.
Who can blame them? They're politicians. They respond to the public. The public is saying to them, do whatever you want to do. You have my 90% approval rating. It's your fault if you are not keeping an eye on your government. I said that the first night back. I said there's still politicians. They still respond to lobbying. They still respond to polls. They still respond to people, but the people aren't responding.
What happened with the people are not getting all the vision. It's a program. It's a propaganda program. The eyes are really very close to those TV screens. Okay, terrorism, terrorism, terrorism. Fill up the money this end, fill up the money on that end. What about those who died today? Someone has to be responsible. Forget about terrorism. If there is a malfunction, if there is something compromise on the quality control or the mechanism because of the laid off the people, no one is talking about that at all.
You mean the planes you're talking about? Engines and planes?
Yeah, you never know
they
what
fly forever. They
2017, we're not going to... We put a man on the moon. Kennedy said we're going to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. We went from chimps in go-karts to a guy on the moon in less than 10 years, but screening baggage twice as long. That really cannot be done. And And why aren't you mad about the fact that nobody is kicking ass and taking names? No one is cutting the red tape.
Right.
Where are these Homeland Security?
People are afraid.
Well,
I think people are afraid. They're just afraid to be put on the side where someone would assume that they are opposing the system, that they actually are, you know, supporting
Our
the
patriotism
terrorists.
is sort of getting in the way of wanting to stand up and be a dissenting
Exactly.
voice. What is the difference between being a conscious critic and a dissenting voice?
This, I guess.
Which
I
one are
feel
you?
this is patriotism. I want to save my country.
We have a tremendous...
And I want someone there who's effective in doing
But
it.
we have a tremendous history of dissension, even in times of war. It's a myth that we don't. Civil War, Lincoln was reviled by his own side.
Right.
The war is not going well. The war is not this. The war is not that. Hey, I wasn't crazy about Bush being in office here when all this happened. This is a boy who's, you know, not... he was getting paddled at the eating club at Yale, you know, when a lot of stuff was going on in the world. McCain was choking. But the idea is, this guy he's in there now, and everyone wants, well, I mean, I have plenty of criticism with the politics as usual. Let's drill in the Arctic wildlife. Let's not reduce, make mileage better in cars or make toasters more efficient. But people are looking for a gigantic war to be won in 4 weeks.
No, I'm just saying in 2 months, they could have fixed a little bit about baggage screening. But I have to take a commercial.
Yes, you're right, you're
We'll
right.
be right back. Because that's sort of the elephant in the room that a lot of people don't talk about in this. Or is it, is my question. We had the 4 Muslim students on last week, and we started to talk. We have a very vibrant debate when they're on. And very quickly, it got to Israel. And I notice that happens a lot of times when you're arguing with people in the Muslim world. It very quickly gets to Israel. And my point is always, you know what? What does Israel really have to do with joblessness in Indonesia or dictatorship in Morocco or no free speech in Iran? I just wonder, and maybe you can answer this, why the Jews, after all this time, still always the scapegoat?
Well, on behalf of the Jews, let me say... yeah, you make a very good point. You notice how Osama bin Laden conveniently changed his emphasis from us defiling the Holy Land of Saudi Arabia, which was his primary concern, get out of the land of Mecca and so forth. And he included the Israel-Palestine situation to get more legitimacy. We got no credit at all. They don't seem to be altruistic, many of these Muslim countries or the people in them, when we risked life and limb in Central Europe near the millennium. At the end of the 20th century, Serbian Christians massacring European Muslims and putting them in concentration camps. Or that naive and ill-fated mission to Somalia to feed Muslim, the poorest people in the world. Or, though we had personal interest in the oil, we bought into the Kuwaiti suffering, which was palpable, actually. When Iraq invaded, they tortured these and captured these Kuwaitis, and we saved them. Yes, we had a personal interest. That didn't count. It's always Israel. Check out the...
Because from 1948, look at this, from 1948, we are not against Israel. First of all, we should all know that the Muslims are not against the Israelis or Jews.
Oh, please.
Well, you have... One thing is always make upset to all the Muslims in the entire world that our point of view was not really explained to the Westerns. Western problem is the cameras only goes where they see the flag burnings, where they see the different situations. They don't go to the billions of those. We have no problem.
Speak up more, the moderator.
Wait a second.
We have no problem with the Israel. The problem is since 1948, the tiny peoples over there, Palestinians, are living in hell. They born in camps. Okay. Because
why are they living in hell?
Because they have no place to live.
Why?
Because the country is not there. The country is occupied.
Okay, let me tell you something. In 1948, after Israel was attacked, when the 7 Arab armies tried to kill it in its infancy, Jordan, an Arab country, took over the West Bank for 19 years. And yet, no Palestinian state was born in those 19 years. I wonder why.
Okay.
Because they can't afford peace.
Not at all.
The Arab
Not at all.
dictatorships need that festering sore as an escape.
Not at all. Not at all. The point is, you're just trying to paint us with the same brush, one brush.
It's an accurate brush.
We are terrorists. We are terrorists and we are against Israel. We are not against Israel. We have a legitimate point that any world you go to survey, not only Muslims, the non-Muslim, Bethlehem is not belong to Muslims. It's belong to the Christian, where the Jesus was born, was wounded by the tanks. We are trying to say that America should play the role as an old elder brother, like he's playing with with Israel. But with Muslims, play the role as a stepbrother. We always being beaten. Look, President Bush right now did not bother to meet with Yasser Arafat. What kind of impact is going to transmit from here to the western, to the eastern world?
The last president spent so much time with Yasser Arafat,
Yes.
they were practically engaged, okay?
Yeah. They had 95% of what they were looking
It
for.
got
Had it
him
in their hands.
nowhere. Arafat, like all the thugocracy in that area, does not want
Not at all.
peace. Because as I say, then they would have nothing to distract their people.
No, they cannot afford to have a violence.
No,
that country has no existing.
Let the doc talk here.
Well, that's certainly not the way in which I see it. I mean, Israel represents for many Arab people, I guess, for many Arab states, it's just a vivid memory of Western intrusion. Everyone will focus attention on Israel, not necessarily having an opinion on it or hating it, but because it so clearly represents Western intrusion. And and I'd add to this, if their own governments are in fact, oppressive, repressive, and so on, they would prefer, I mean, it's easier to focus on Western intrusion because it's so obvious. It's so obviously there.
Really?
Why? They lived there 3,000 years ago.
Why? So
Yeah.
they have a right to live there, but why
And
not
there is not one
Palestinians?
democracy
Why
in the
not
Middle East
Palestinians
besides
live
Israel?
there?
Why
No.
is there not one
Why?
democracy?
The reason because of
Islam
the oil.
was the flower
No,
of the world
oil.
in science,
Oil.
in
Yes.
politics, advanced,
No.
the most incredible advance. And why are they now wallowing
They don't want
in
Palestine
sand?
to be grow there. They don't want it because it's not in their interest. They want Israel to be strong there. The Arab can blackmail themselves. They
Okay.
can provide
Why
the
do you get
oil.
so worked up? You're from Pakistan.
Well, it has nothing to do
All
with
right.
Pakistan.
Calm
This is
down.
the problem
I
of the
don't
world.
want the Homeland Security
You were so
office to-
excited about the Serbs? Were
I
you
have to take
excited
a
when the
commercial.
Muslims
Yes,
in
we're
Europe
excited.
were being exterminated? Huh?
All right, welcome back. Listen, in the time we have, I want to ask you about bin Laden, who now says he has nuclear weapons, but $40 billion and not a penny more. I've argued with folks on this show who say, he's not that much of a hero in the Muslim world. I read other things to the kind. By the way, his last jihad was against the Jews and Crusaders. It was right there in the title of the jihad, against Jews and Crusaders. Okay, I know they don't hate the Jews, and bin Laden's not a hero, but let's pretend in my parallel universe that he is a hero to a lot of the Arab world. Why to the Muslim world? Why is that? Why is...
He's made in USA, CAA. He's
Oh, I hear this every time.
He's a
I know.
product like a
Yeah, I
Coke,
agree. Okay,
like
let's
a
move
Pepsi.
past that point. For folks who watch it every night, they hear it every night. I know. He was made by the CIA.
Yes.
I agree. But let's move on to why they like him now. They don't
Okay.
like him because he was made by the CIA.
Well, no. Let's put it this way. The situation is we should go back and see the facts. He was used. He was exported from Saudi Arabia as a billionaire to show to the Muslim world as a hero how the billionaire gave up his life, his castle, his palace, his
Why do they
Rolls-Royce.
love him?
Okay. What happened? Why they love
he a
him?
folk hero?
First of all, they don't love him.
He's a rock star.
First of
He's
all-
like Billy Corgan in his part of the
First
world.
of all-
No, seriously.
He's much nicer.
I've recommended a lot, but
Yeah.
Well,
jihad's not on my list.
He is no, but they don't have that
Well,
many
they
rock
have no-
stars.
Why is he a folk hero? Why is he a folk hero? Why is he the second most popular
know
name
exactly
that people are
why.
naming
Why?
their children?
right.
You
What
don't
I
happened?
want to hear what the professor has to say.
How many people have the children?
Professor talk.
Thank
Let's
you.
please,
Thank
Professor.
you.
Professor, we only have a minute left. Come on, let the professor.
I think a
And
lot
then
of
Marianne.
people
Come on.
will like him because he's almost a mystical figure. They haven't met him. He doesn't make many statements. He hasn't really been. He's not exactly a charismatic.
He's got a video every
speaker.
week. What do you mean?
What are you doesn't.
Every week there's a new video.
And I think that he can do no wrong in their eyes because there's this little man taking on these huge, powerful states, and I feel that he's almost mystical.
But strange because he's not from the streets. He's
Right.
He's a rich with millions. Are you kidding
It's
me?
not a matter of millions. The problem is why we leave Afghanistan as an orphan child.
Wait.
Someone has to be there to taking care of that matter.
I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand this. Okay, so maybe you can explain it to me. Okay, he's not from the streets, so he's not really one of the people.
Sure.
He's basically going to continue the oppression of half the race. You know, they're all going to be wearing burqas, so. You know, they can't be looking forward to that. So what is it about him that makes him shining bright?
Read the children's textbooks. That'll tell you all you have to know.
Okay.
It's not a burqa.
Commercial. We'll be
It's
right
not a
back.
burqa.
Okay, civilizations can come together when it's time to plug stuff. Here's Rahat and Smashing Pumpkins' greatest hits and A Voice from Heaven and the Pumpkins videos.